Before we reached Dublin, we first stopped at Glasnevin Cemetery in Killmehan jail. Glasnevin Cemetery is a necropolis, so to speak, with a population greater than the city of Dublin. Our tour focused on the warriors that were buried in Glasnevin Cemetery, from those killed during the Irish War for Independence, to those killed in the following Irish Civil War, and those killed in World Wars I and II. Glasnevin Cemetery, however, tells the story of far more of Ireland's history, including national tragedies like the Magdalen factory fire. Many people important to Ireland's history are buried in Glasnevin Cemetery, including Daniel O'Connell, the founder of Glasnevin Cemetery and the liberator of Ireland. He achieved this name because of his efforts to emancipate the Catholics in the early 19th century. He founded Glasnevin Cemetery in hopes of creating a multi-denominational cemetery after a fight broke out between a Catholic priest and a Protestant priest at a funeral. Michael Collins is also buried in Glasnevin Cemetery, only 7 graves away from the woman he was engaged to be married to, Kitty Kiernan. Other important figures like Cathal Brugha and Elizabeth O'Farrell. Elizabeth O'Farrell is the woman who announced the surrender at the 1916 Easter Rising. Her grave was recently honored alongside other 1916 female fighters in an effort to recognize the role of women in the War for Independence. These efforts to recognize the female participants in the War for Independence was evident on the day we visited Glasnevin Cemetery because they had an exhibition on the Killmehan, the women's paramilitary organization that served alongside the IRA in the Irish War for Independence. These famous fighters, however, bring me to the connection between Killmehan Jail and Glasnevin Cemetery. Killmehan Jail was opened in 1787 to house men, women, and children. There were always 2 wings to Killmehan Jail, the East Wing and the West Wing. The West Wing is all that remains of the original structure, while the East Wing was remodeled in the 1800s for better surveillance of prisoners. Women and children were later housed in the West Wing, while men were housed in the East Wing, except during the Irish Civil War, when women were also housed in the East Wing because they were considered to be too dangerous. Many important people who were later buried in Glasnevin Cemetery spent time in Killmehan Jail, including Countess Markievicz, the first woman elected to the British House of Commons, Patrick Pearse, Eamon de Valera, Joseph Plunkett and his wife Grace Gifford, and Charles Stewart Parnell. Joseph Plunkett and Grace Gifford were actually married in Killmehan Jail and spent the only 10 minutes of their married life together in a cell at Killmehan Jail before Joseph Plunkett was executed for his role in the Easter Rising of 1916. Both Glasnevin Cemetery and Killmehan Jail tell the story of the rebellious Irish and their fight for independence that lasted more than 200 years.